Jack.
Congratulations, first ever Sudanese-born player to play an AFL game. How do you feel, firstly?
I'm pretty nervous at the moment.
Matt Jack Daw, the target for the first inside 50. Oh, baby! No way! First game, first shot at goal. And let's hope the first of many. And here they come, Jared.
One of the best physical specimens the game has ever seen, Matt Jack Daw. Remember his first game? He just hit the ground running, kicked goals, always threatening to take mark of the year.
There's a race on. Johnson's had a good turn. Wilson, brilliant. Well done. Rammer, he's got this one.
Yeah, to think what Ramanauskas had to come through that battle with cancer, yeah, it's quite remarkable.
Knowing him and then knowing the story from his point of view, it's one of the remarkable comebacks. For him to come back in the manner which he did, with enormous courage and devotion to what he did, I've got great regard for him as a person now as I know him, but as a footballer at the time and what he achieved against that background, pretty special.
Jakovic leads Langford, who gives him a tiny little nudge. Jakovic again. Working well, gets around, has a shot at goal. Good looking kick by Jakovic.
Jakovic territory, Mark missed by Thrip. Jakovic good to ball with the right foot this time. Oh, and he's put it through.
It was astonishing what he achieved in such a little amount of time, and then, poof, he was gone.
To celebrate a little bit of Angelina Jolie kissing her brother.
It's a ride, it's a goal! A beautiful kick! He salutes the crowd, kisses his brother.
He's certainly been a trailblazer. He's been a fine player for Richmond over quite a few years now, and I think more importantly, the impact he's had on the footy community has been great.
Multicultural round, one of the faces we always see is Bashar Hooley for a good reason. He's such a dominant player for the Tigers. He's got a deadly left leg and really misses the target.
He's a beautiful kick. That's really sweet, isn't it? At number 26, Mike Pike. He was a Canadian rugby representative.
You get one shot, right, at life, and you've got to take the road less traveled sometimes. And I'm very fortunate that I've had the opportunities I've had, and I feel even more fortunate that we've arrived in a fantastic country, a fantastic city, and at a fantastic club.
Pike went on to reach the ultimate glory and became a Sydney Swans premiership player.
Mike Pike was one of the most single-minded players I've ever met. He's a young bloke from Canada, a rugby star, decides he wants to be an AFL star, comes to Australia, 2 or 3 years into his career, he's part of a Swans premiership team because he wanted it that badly. People mocked him at the start. In fact, one famous commentator said he's the worst player ever to play AFL. 3 years later, he's got a flag and the commentator never got one.
Gets a long hand pass out in the Marcoux direction. He's under pressure and trouble. Does it with speed. Caught. No, gets away. Does it again. Shoots. And has he barreled it? He has. Well, that was the solo effort of the match, there's no doubt.
Bortolotto, who's done well in the early stages. Good play. Marcoux, lovely sidestep. Lines them up and puts it through.
One of the great guys at Carlton was Alex Marcoux. Really quick and powerful out of a contest. But his best work was done at the Lodge.
As most who know him, he has a sense of humour like no others. For those who've seen his performance, having spent the time with the Prime Minister of Australia at the Lodge, will know that he has a rare sense of humour. Swears like no other person. For the first moment I met him, I thought it was almost disrespectful, but when you know Alex, that's his method of communication. Unfortunately, the whoosh got so bad that when he needed to deliver the ball, it didn't. It just went as far as we could. So I'm not sure that we ended up being a better team on the end of those long kicks. But a great character. And as a pair, the Koudavidis, Chris Tu combination sort of entertained people as totally different personalities and people in their lives, but were as thick as glue.
Haven't seen too much of him today.
The Magpies need the next goal. Centre wing, a one-on-one. Gee, Christo has been very, very good. He's taken it the lot.
But he could also play.
Demetrio, good paddle. Abernethy, who ran on, drives it through. Great goal.
Andrew Demetriou polarises opinion. There's no question about that in the role he had as the Supremo of the AFL. But what we forget is that Andrew Demetriou was a very, very good footballer for North Melbourne. A lot lighter, a lot sharper, and less outspoken in his playing days, but made a big impact at North. And I think he probably helped lead the way for players who'd come from Greece. The Italians were already a part of football, but from Greece and Europe, that decided that they could make an impact on this game.
Kid to come from a multicultural background, a Korean background, never even seen our national game, to go on and be a two-time premiership player, multiple best and fairest. I've never seen a more driven individual than Peter Bell.
Big Damien goes down. Uze. Oh, magnificent foot skills. Soccer-style stuff. And the goal of the day!
He was a brilliant player, Adam, there's no doubt about that, and he was a cult figure at the Melbourne Footy Club, but he was durable as well. At one stage, he played 226 games straight.
Come back to him. He's still got some time. Hard up against the bad foot. This is where Barney was. He
it's Ty Kennelly, 1 goal, 5 for the season, and what a goal it was earlier in the year. Kennelly, that'll get him going in Ireland. He's put it through.
Jose Romero.
Romero on the burst. He's kicked 2. He's lined it up, loaded it up, and kicked a big one.
Jose was that competitive that at one warm-up at Princes Park, he thought I wasn't switched on, so he come up, he punched me in the stomach, looked over me after I was winded and said, "You're not switched on today." And that's exactly what I needed, and that's where he was so good, because he could read you as a teammate and knew how to switch you on.
Fate of the match riding on Peter Riccardi. It leaves the boot, it's swinging back.
I remember the first time I saw Peter Riccardi, and I think it was in a pre-season game in New Zealand playing for Geelong, I reckon against St Kilda. And big hair, not quite sure what was going on with him, but you could tell straight away what a player he was going to be. And I think he had a huge impact, and he'll go down as one of those really unlucky Geelong players. He just missed the premierships, and yet he gave so much for such a long period. Kicked a goal to beat Carlton too. It's always great to beat Carlton, and to do it when it really breaks their hearts, even better.
I'll tell you what's next. It's Vinny Cotoggio. How good was he as a multicultural marvel?
I used to board next to Vinny Cotoggio, and the waft of Italian food over the fence was unbelievable. I'd only eaten spaghetti out of a can until I lived there. It was beautiful.
Moving forward again. Didak just getting a bit of warm-up going here. He's still got some more to give. Didak from the pocket. Have a go!
Well, Alan Didak was just a great young man. From Paraka in South Australia, he came over as our first-round pick, number 3 in the draft. 2 good blokes ahead of him, Kaczynski and Revolt, so he had a bit of pressure on him. Didn't worry him at all. What a great player he was in the midfield, able to conjure goals, could turn a game on its head. But in 2010 in the grand final, he'd torn the pectoral muscle off his shoulder and in many ways was the Darren Mullane of the 2010 team. Played under incredible duress, but when he smothered that ball and kicked a right footer, if you don't mind, a right footer from Alan Didak, we knew the premiership was coming back to Collingwood. It was a wonderful moment from one of our great players, and how fitting that just like Darren Mullane, when the siren went and Collingwood were the premiers, he had the Sherrin in his hands.
At 15, you know this makes sense.
I don't even know how good Sam Kekovich was, but if you ask Sam, he will tell you that he was the only player the Kangaroos had for 20 years. Him and Barry Cable. I think they single-handedly beat Geelong one day.
He was as strong and as tough over the ball and had an enormous endurance for a bloke who was probably 6 foot or 6'1" and weighed probably 105 or 6 kilos. He got round the ground incredibly well. We kept thinking we could exploit it, but we never did. And probably as good a inside player at stoppages where he could take people out either to win it himself or to provide the space for others to do it. And consistent. And it's wonderful to see one of the next generation in and another one about to come. So I'd like to think that the 3 Silvani boys, the grandsons of Serge, might be good contributors to the Carlton Football Club.
Looks for Walker on the wing, well spoiled by Michael. That is fantastic stuff from Mal Michael.
Mal Michael, the Papua New Guinean Express, one of the hardest fullbacks to ever play on. I used to hate playing on him in training. Most memorable Mal Michael moment, though, when he kicked a goal for the opposition from about 30 metres out. Mal, we're going the other way, mate. Wrong way.
It's fair to say Mal wasn't overly interested in training, so it was usually we'd have a pretty easy night at training. But on the field, he had enormous closing speed, get a fist in, powerful player, and I think in many ways it's unfair that Mal Michael hasn't got the title of All-Australian next to his name.
That's where you want it. He gets the kick. Oh, yes! Oh, my goodness! Is this one to remember?
He's got to run at it.
Oh, Paddy.
And he's got it.
Big grab.
Full goal. Look at Natanui! Oh! He took his armchair with him and set up on top. Nick Natanui
sends it long down towards full forward. Natanui! Oh, Natanui held all week at the very last gasp. And he's put it through. Eagles win. A remarkable game of football.
It's a pretty sad moment, I suppose, but I love playing with the boys. I love footy. Sad to give it away.
The Rocker brothers, Anthony and Sav, two hulking sons of Italian immigrants who kicked more than 1,100 goals between them. No question, two heroes of the most famous club in the land.
This is taking a long time. This will probably be the last play of the night. It's going and going and going. Rocker's kicked it. Collingwood are in front.
But Sav Rocker is going for goal number 6 again.
Comes to the member's side. The drop punt kick goes outside 50. Van der Haar in front. And he takes the mark. Paul Van der Haar, the Flying Dutchman.
He's round his body. Van der Haar.
It's very difficult to play against Vanders and not like him. He's a really likeable bloke. But I once said to somebody, I attended an Essendon function, and they were celebrating Vander's career. And they had about 3 minutes of highlights of his up on the board. And apart from the odd long goal, they were all marks. And I actually asked for a copy of that tape, because if there was ever an illustration of how you teach somebody to mark the ball overhead and always keep their eyes on the footy, Paul Van der Haar was the best exponent of it. He would turn and contort his body. He'd go for a grab, touch, be spoiled, it'll fall that way. He would contort his body to actually fully face his shoulders to it again. He was the copybook overhead mark.
At number 9, it's the King of the West.
As far as he was concerned for the afternoon, Jakovic takes the mark, plays on. Sends Waterman into space.
It's away, goes to half-court. Jakovic is up, and that's a brilliant grab. Probably would have got the point.
Djakovic v Carey. It was the biggest matchup there was in the 1990s. There's no doubt about that. If you ask Jacko, he won 11-1. If you ask Carey, he won 11-1. I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle.
Liver was brutal. He was so competitive. He was tough to hit with a drop punt at training. I found that hard in my first couple of years. Once I got that right, it was brilliant to play with him. The rundown tackle on Scotty Lucas in that 2000 game was something to just set us alight. It was one of the most inspirational things I've seen on the footy field.
And the best thing for Tony, he now gets to enjoy it all again with Tom in the thick of the action.
See the generations coming through now. Stephen being held back by his father, who didn't want him to play. I think I gave Stephen his first game maybe in 1985. Dad didn't want him, didn't say he was ready enough, but he was as ready as anybody and had a wonderful career. I think the best fullback that I've ever seen in the competition before or after. And it's wonderful to see one of the next generation in and another one about to come. So I'd like to think that the three Silvani boys, the grandsons of Serge, might be good contributors to the Carlton Football Club.
Play by Peter Dacos. He's kicked to half forward. Starcevic. Oh, Silvani!
Oh, what a mark.
He was up there for a week.
To the wing position on the member stand side. Oh, Jesselenko! You're guilty!
Jessica could run as fast standing up as he could leaning over. He could tackle, he could mark. He could kick a goal, kicked 100 goals in a year. He's the last captain coach ever to win a premiership. Freak.
And kick it will carry the centre. They adjust into attack and up goes Jezza. The magician, Mandrake and everything. Took a magnificent mark.
For a bloke who was just a 6-footer, maybe a little more, his ability round his feet, never going to the ground, but his capacity and the mark that he took probably stands in my mind as, one or two or three of the best marks of the game's ever.
Ask any Carlton supporter old enough to remember and they'll declare their unabashed love for Alex Jesselenko, the boy from Eastern Europe who came to Australia and won the hearts of every Carlton supporter. Brilliant player, superb in the air and a cat on the ground.
Ratton, standing start by Ratton. Couldn't quite make it.
He's a left footer. He can swing around now and head for home. He needs it to bend back. It does. Oh, mark in the back by Kuna Fides. And hasn't this man turned it on this season? Right on the line. He's going to bend the check side back. Let's do it for Brett Ratton's 200, shall we? Let's do it.
As the red ball says, Kuna Fides on it.
Oh, golly. This will cap off his day. This will cap off his day. Shot. Oh, the big fellow Steins, and he pays on, and Gaelic is through.
He was, of course, the Irish-born AFL convert who turned AFL champion.
I first met the pimply-faced Jim Steins in a seedy hotel in Dublin with Barry Richardson and Ron Barassi, who had concocted this silly idea to recruit an Irishman.
Who would have thought a gangly boy from Dublin would come to Australia and win the biggest achievement in Australian football, the Brownlow medal? But Jimmy wanted it that badly, he just refused to accept that it couldn't happen, and he made it happen.
I'd seen Big Dipper play in the 78 Grand Final. I was only 14 watching it as a kid. But to get to play with him and become one of his mates, become one of his teammates and a great friend was pretty special to me. And then I learned about his family history. His father was in the Alpini, which was the Italian Alps soldiers group. And when he passed away, they had the Alpini hat on there and the Big Dipper was in tears. And because all of us players had seen Mr. Di Domenico around for 20 years, some of us cried as well. They're just a wonderful, close-knit family, the epitome of, multicultural celebration in Australian football.
You talk about multicultural. Robert Di Domenico, Italian background, came to the club, was a superstar, had this long, complicated name that no one could pronounce, not even himself.
One of the most powerful players the competition has seen for many a time. Mark Prosciutto, he could play full forward, he could play on ball, and then of course he could play at the Ramsgate. 8 All-Australians, 3 BNFs, 1 Brownlow medal, and 300 games. What a career.
Well, likewise. Dacos nearly runs out of room. He's bowled!
For a bloke who was one of the greatest players ever, who could make a ball talk, I still reckon Peter Dacos is underestimated by the rest of the football world, but he sure as hell isn't at Collingwood, I can tell you. Mr. Magic, the Macedonian marvel, you name it, he could do it. Dakes could just make that ball sing. What a fantastic player, and what a great story too. Dakes was just one for the ages, that famous number 35. The amount of times that Collingwood supporters just said, when somebody's running down the wing, just kick it to Dakes, and you just knew something would happen. The big barrels, the torpedoes, the banana benders from the pocket, just the slipping of tackles, and of course as a young bloke, his beautiful play in the centre before he got injured and his high marking, he was the total package, and he made paying the money at the gate worthwhile at Victoria Park.
Dakes. I don't think anyone ever mentions Dakes without calling him the Macedonian marvel. If that doesn't sum up multiculturalism, what does?
He was known as the Macedonian marvel, and we all know why. Peter Dacos was a wizard, and I think we sometimes can forget just how good he was until we see replays of his highlights. He was a brilliant player and probably the best converter in my time in football.
Here's the magician near the boundary line.
30 metres out, Peter Dacos.